right, so we're going to do a little bit more refresher. I think it's very important that we're all kind of on the same page. And so if a lot of you are experts in PyMOL, you know how to use PyMOL, feel free to tune out. But for some of you, this might be new, so we're going to have to do it. All right. So PyMOL, if you're not aware, is a program used to visualize your protein and your small molecules and your molecules just generally. There are other programs in the field. Chimera X out of UCSF is a very common one. Both have their own benefits and pitfalls. Our lab uses PyMOL, so I use PyMOL. I think it's always a good idea to use what your lab and your support system around you use, because I think both tools have very different commands, and it's much easier to get help on the tool that other people are aware of. So for this class, we're going to do PyMOL. If you are very familiar with Chimera and you prefer to use Chimera, if you like doing it in the browser with Molstar, you're welcome to do that as well. If you want to do it in VS Code, you're welcome to do that as well. We're pretty agnostic to the tools that you use. We're going to be teaching PyMOL, so if you don't have a preferred tool, we recommend PyMOL for this. But yeah, so we're going to get started. So you all should have done in the homework 1, I believe, it might have been 2, which is install PyMOL. That was the first thing that I had you guys do, which is install PyMOL in VS Code. There was a little basic homework just to ensure that you had it installed. But in case you don't, you're welcome to do the homework really quickly right now. PyMOL installs really fast. It's very small, but hopefully you guys all have it. So kind of what is PyMOL? We already talked about that it's a molecular visualization software. One of the great things about PyMOL is that it's built on Python. So the command bar that you can enter your commands in all take canonical Python 3, which means that you can write your own Python scripts within that bar and use them to manipulate Python, or to manipulate PyMOL, excuse me. But also because of that, PyMOL is in and of itself a Python library. So you can write your own Python scripts, importing Python like you would, or PyMOL like you would any other library, and you can do all of the functionality that you would do in PyMOL completely headlessly. So that means that you never have to actually open PyMOL, but anything that you would want to do for your protein manipulation, you can do programmatically in Python, which makes it a really powerful tool. It is my preferred tool when writing scripts to do anything with the manipulation of a PDB or a .cif. I think it works really well. It's very robust. And whenever it's not working, I can always bring up that UI and inspect it visually. So I really like PyMOL. And just to kind of give you an overview of how PyMOL works, the first thing that's important are the views. So these instructions are all with the newer version of PyMOL, which is PyMOL 3. There is an older version of PyMOL, PyMOL 2.6 long-term LTS, which stands for long-term support. It is also a very popular version, and a lot of people do use it. Our lab doesn't really switch to 3. Some of the newer students have 3, but a lot of us are very stubborn. But functionality-wise, it's very similar. Some of the buttons have moved positions, but for the most part, I think it's pretty intuitive. If you can figure out where one is, you'll figure it out in the other version. But the first thing to know is the views. This is how you actually render and view a protein structure. The easiest way to get something into a view is to just drag the PDB file directly into your PyMOL session. The next really kind of important thing to remember or to know is that you can grab proteins. You can change what you're selecting to either specific atoms, specific residues, specific chains, specific molecules. If you want to move or change colors or do any kind of manipulation to a particular atom, chain, residue, etc., the best way to do it is to just grab it. You can always do this programmatically. So if you wanted to grab residue 341, you could use the command seli, which stands for select, resi, which stands for residue, and then 341, and it would do the same thing as if you had clicked that individual residue. You can always do this with atoms as well and chains, but with PyMOL, because it's so interactive, you can do it just by dragging or just by clicking. The The next kind of obvious thing is that you can zoom, so you can make it everything bigger or smaller, and so you can get a better view of your protein in any way you want. If you want to look at just the active site, zooming in and out is a great way to do it. The next thing is that you can, the show as, so there's different rendering modes. You can do sticks, which are what a lot of us see in papers. But there's also lines, which are a little harder to see, but it's good if you're trying to view the whole network of side chains around a ligand or around some kind of binding pocket. And then there's also the spheres and licorice, which are a little less used, but still have their own value. Yeah. So the other thing you can do is you can look at the sequence. So you can pull up using the seq button, the actual sequence that you have. If you have multiple proteins, it pulls it up aligned to your first one. This is a great way to compare proteins. It is a great way to select similar residues across two different proteins. You can also use it to select your ligand. You can use it to select anything that's within your frame, which is whatever you've brought into PyMOL. The next thing is the wizards. This is where a lot of the manipulation comes in. These are tools that are made sometimes by the PyMOL developers, sometimes by the community, and then later incorporated into PyMOL. This is where you do things like measurements, so you can get the angles, the distances between two atoms. You can also do something called pair fitting. You can do a lot of the analysis that's done in PyMOL is done through the wizards. And here is kind of an example of doing the measurements. So if you were to try and get the distance between these two atoms, that would be 7.4 angstroms. This is really useful, especially when you're working with enzymes, because hydrogen bonding is relatively strict distance. And if you're seeing that something is 5 angstroms away, you can safely say that something is wrong with your model, or there might not be actually hydrogen bonding. You can also save everything as figures. Most protein rendering that we see in papers come from either PyMOL or Chimera. PyMOL is incredibly robust in its ability to customize your images. So if you ever see a paper or a blog post or one of Nature's articles where they have fancy cartoon with beautiful ray traced lighting, that's all done in PyMOL. If you go on the Notion site, we have set up a PyMOL preset, which is similar to the way that the Baker Lab renders their proteins in the RF diffusion papers. But there's a great community online of people who are really interested in doing high quality protein renderings in PyMOL, and they have their own settings that you can just take to render your proteins any way you want. One thing I will say that I've always noticed is that people pay attention to your talks more when your proteins are very beautiful, and it makes everything better. So I do recommend the aesthetics, even though it feels kind of awful caring about the aesthetics, it does help. So here's kind of an example of some of the things that you can do. So here's a very basic example where you can just change the color of these two residues, and then it is changing to purple, which is showing that you want to highlight it. Sorry, I got distracted by the colors being very different between my computer and the screen. But then here's kind of a nicer way that you can do it, where it's a little bit more aesthetic. You keep the rest of the protein white, but you highlight really just what you want to look at. It's very obvious on the page or on the screen what you're trying to highlight. And then there's a bunch of different commands that you can do in the GUI, you can do in commands. Even the wizard commands, you can take measurements between two atoms, all within the commands. PyMOL's documentation is actually very good. So anything that you would want to try to do in PyMOL, you can find in their wiki or their documentation in some way. We talked about how ChatGPT was pretty bad at some of this stuff. ChatGPT is actually pretty good at PyMOL. So I would recommend using it if you're really stuck. It's kind of something we already talked about. There's a lot of configuration that you can do when it comes to making figures. We already talked about this. Sorry. And we already also talked about this, but here's a link to the PyMOL wiki. It's just pymolwiki.org. So here's where you can find essentially everything you need to know. Google has also indexed it quite well, that you can Google what you need to know, and it will usually find where in the wiki you're trying to do things. The one thing that I would recommend that I think is not obvious in the wiki that I find very nice is the ray trace settings. You don't actually need the fancy graphics card with ray tracing. Any computer can do it. It will just be a little bit slower. But ray tracing is PyMOL's way of ensuring that everything has really nice borders and everything has light reflect on it in a way that makes it look very appealing. So the next thing we're talking about is Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is my favorite code editor. I think it has kind of taken over the industry and just general computational work over the last decade since Microsoft released it. It's fully open source. It is made by Microsoft, but it's free, and you're welcome to edit it any way you want. They have a very robust extension library where the community can make extensions to allow VS Code to do essentially whatever you want. Um, so as I mentioned earlier, this was part of the homework, so you guys hopefully installed it. And again, like PyMOL, if you have another code editor that you really like, you're welcome to use that. This is the one that I recommend. But there are other great ones. On Macs, I think Sublime Text is very popular. On Windows, Notepad++ is very popular. I don't know about Linux. What else is popular than VS Code? But yeah. So here's kind of just a basic tour of the VS Code interface. The first thing that I think is pretty important for a lot of us is the remote SSH plugin. I would recommend that we all install it, especially since a lot of us are going to be working on our home clusters as the compute for this boot camp. What remote SSH does is it allows us to access and edit our files on our home cluster on our computer as if it was on our local computer. It makes editing and viewing files really easy. You can also open up your terminal straight from VS Code, so you can submit your jobs. You can run them from there. Overall, I think it just makes everybody's life a lot easier. But again, there's a lot of tools that can do this. CyberDuck is a really popular one. You're welcome to use your preferred method. And then here is kind of just instructions for how to set that up. I'm not going to go over it, but if you wanted to set it up, you're welcome to go into the Notion site and pull up these slides, and you can use this to help you set it up. So here's a mini lesson from the PyRosetta community. This is a pretty standard using PyMOL introductory workshop course. And so we're going to work on this for the next 45 minutes or so. Feel free to ask any of the TAs for help. Obviously, we recommend that you guys work in groups and work with each other. Yeah, so that is in the Notion site. I will actually also post it in the Slack.